anxious to get to this because it's been a huge issue politically and for people out there this week. And this is this controversial legislation on the records of the Mother and Baby Homes Commission, which passed through all stages this week. It's now emerged that the Data Protection Commission had advised the Department of Children that sealing these records will breach Irish and European law in relation to people's rights to access personal information. I'll just let Brid, you've been active on this campaign for some time.
Yeah, I mean, I think what happened this week was really quite shocking. And for decades, we have seen the state brutalise and mistreat and even malnourish and deny and lie to and kidnap children and torture women. They live with the torture, and their generations after them live with the torture of the memory and the emotion of what they went through. But not to overemphasise that, there's a very, very worrying ethos behind this idea of sealing the files. So, for example, it's not just about the witnesses and their statements. That's absolutely a big part of it. But I asked the Minister what else will be sealed. And he said, well, I know there are some records of institutions and departments, but I don't know everything that's going to be sealed. And I repeatedly asked him, you don't know everything that's going into the seal, yet you're prepared to seal it. Could it be possible that there's information in there that the state and that people should have access to beyond the personal information? And he couldn't answer me. And then we had Deputy Catherine Connolly continually asking him why he hadn't published the sixth interim report. And he couldn't answer that and wouldn't answer. He said it was the Attorney General advised him not to. So if this stinks to the whole nation, is because it smells, and it smells of an attempt to bury the truth. And not just about individual records, but about the whole institutionalised and systemic nature of how women and children were treated in these homes over, you're talking 7-8 decades.
Colin Brophy.
Well, the Minister has no intention of
independence, because after all, you're elected and he isn't.
But you have an Attorney General who is there to advise the government.
But you don't have to take the advice.
The advice is given to the Minister, and the Minister is following that advice.
So he chooses to take the advice of the Attorney General and ignore the advice of the Data Protection Commissioner and ignore the expressed will of the thousands of survivors who do not want this to happen.
Well, it is important.
Like, it just is incredible. But he also did it with such haste, such indecent haste, that it made it look like he is hiding something.
Moving aside from the disputes and the confusion around the import of this legislation and where we're going with it, Why did he not stand back and say, look, given the amount of distress out there with this very vulnerable and already distressed cohort of people, why not hold on, cool the jets and have put the effort into communicating what he says is the reasonable course of action?
Well, I mean, and it is important, and thank you for acknowledging that the Minister has gone out of his way to make the point that he would like that consultation to have been more, that he would like to have had the ability to engage more in it. He's also acknowledged that he would like to have had the time to have more consultation, and he thinks there are very valid points being raised.
Well, at the start, Colin did say, unless I heard him incorrectly, that when a defective product like this is found to be defective and needs to be withdrawn, that the company are told and they're asked to withdraw it. And that in itself seems to me like an extraordinary system. In an issue like this, where the sanitisers in schools, in health centres, in hospitals, in public spaces, that it was left up to the company to withdraw it for a number of days. When they didn't do it, then the department acted. Why should it be left up to a company who, exported defective hand sanitizer in the first place to then withdraw? That's a public health issue, and that should have been dealt with by the department immediately, not leaving it up to the private company to do it. So I find that extraordinary. And no matter what sort of excuses you make, there's systemic failure here, and a lot of teachers, principals were extremely stressed out about it, and it has caused, as you said, rightly said, a lot of disappointment to children. But more importantly, we don't know if within those extra 2 days that people were using this, that there wasn't harm done to them. You know, that at that time they didn't get harm done to them, either respiratory harm or harm to their skin. So it's just not good enough.
Okay, can I, David Cullinan?
Yes, well,
the public health doctors are with this process. And if she says the trust is broken down and they don't detect a very clear intent on the part of government to deal with this, then she's obviously been very sincere in that. These are a very crucial part of our health service. We absolutely need them to to be respected and to be treated with equality. And it's interesting, as she points out, that most of them are women. And we could please move to dealing with this. I heard Dr. Houlihan on the Late Late last night saying the government has done its bit. Well, I don't accept that statement, and I don't accept it in this case and in many other cases, but here is just another example of that. So they really do have to resolve it.
David Cullinan?
Yeah, well, obviously public health is now very much on the front line, and I want to take this opportunity, Katie, to praise all of those public health specialists, but also everybody involved in the public health side of it, including all of those involved in testing and tracing. But all of these pay issues are